Welcome everybody to session 6 of LP Doc Talk. We have Amy and Bobby Dorr with us today who are going to be talking about marriage, dating, and relationships of little people. So Amy and Bobby, please introduce yourself and take it away.
Thanks, Stacey. Well, my name's Amy Dorr. We live in Missouri, and this is my husband, Bobby.
Hi, I'm Bobby.
And we're going to talk, like Stacey said, we're going to talk today a little bit about marriage and dating, and we have some questions. If any others come in while we are on the Doc Talk, then we will answer those as well. So thank you for everyone who's either joining us live or listening in into the recording. So I guess first we'll share a little bit about our history and our relationship and things like that. So do you want to start? Okay, I'll start. So Bobby and I have been together. We've been married for 4 years in last December, so going on 5 years this December. And before that, we were engaged since 2008. So I guess that was almost a 4-year engagement. And now we've been married. So we've been together going on 9 years. So it feels like it's been a long time. So we met a lot of little people will meet other little people over online or through conferences, and then we'll converse online. And long distance relationships are very common in the little people community, and that's definitely what we did. We started talking online back when MySpace was a big deal. And from there, we had mutual friends that we knew. So we weren't complete strangers, but we didn't really know each other. And as we started getting to know each other a little bit better, we started getting closer and finally decided to make it official and be in a relationship. And that's where the fun part, I think, began, because we had to start with the traveling of back and forth to see each other through those first couple of years that we were dating, and then engaged, because we did get engaged fairly quickly. Bobby would come to my house and meet with my mom and my sister, and spend time I lived in Texas at the time, and then the next trip, I would go to his house and meet his family and spend that time with them and kind of see where he grew up. And then we would go back and forth, every couple of months. I mean, definitely traveling is not cheap. And from Texas to Missouri, it's a 10-hour drive. So it was a lot of flying that we had to do and saving up for that. I was still in college. I had just started my freshman year when Bobby and I first started talking, and Bobby was graduating college when we first started talking. That's correct? You were graduating college?
Yeah, that was my last year of college.
Okay. So we were kind of in different places in our life at that point, but not too different. Our families, I think, were really supportive in knowing that we might find someone that we love outside of our state or outside of what's close by. So we were able to see each other every so often, and then of course a lot of talking on the phone and Skyping or video chatting. It was back when AOL Instant Messenger was still really big, so we were doing that as well and talking on there. And after about 2 years, when I was in between my sophomore and junior year in college, we decided that I would transfer to move up to Missouri and go to school a couple hours away from Bobby. That was a big jump because I don't know anyone there. I didn't know anyone in this part of Missouri, and thankfully my mom was cool with it as well, as much as she can be, having her daughter move out to a different state. And from there, we've been in Missouri ever since. So I finished my degree, and shortly after that, we decided to plan our wedding and got married at the end of 2011. So that's kind of where we are now. I'm thinking, then in 2012, a year later, we bought our house, and that's where we are now, I guess. Now in our house, both in our careers, both. I feel like we're successful, and we don't have any children yet, but we do have 3 dogs that we love as our children as of right now. So we do plan on having children in the future, whether it be biological children, adopting children, or fostering. We are open to all 3 avenues. So, and we are not on one side or the other, whether we want children or who have dwarfism, or we are open to having children with dwarfism or having children with who are average height as well. So that's all. Do you want to add anything?
I
Are you not enough?
I don't know, I think so.
Okay. Well, then why don't you talk about your LPA involvement, and I'll talk about my LPA involvement after.
Okay. I've been involved with LPA most of my life since I was a young child. When I became a teenager and started going to more of like the national scenes, I also started getting involved with the like politics of it. So I started off at the chapter level, became a vice president, and then quickly moved up to doing a lot of things with the district level, and then became a district officer, and a district secretary, and then I was district director for a few years, and then now I just got elected into being a district treasurer. So as far as that, being involved in LPA is a great organization. Good, very good people to be involved with. Make friends. They're almost like family. There's a lot of drama involved when you get to the social and dating aspect too, but it's typical of any relationship of, no matter where you are though. So.
All right. You done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. So I'm also very involved in LPA right now. I did a little bit of being involved with Little People of America when I was little, when I was younger, and I would go to things in the chapter where I grew up. I would go to their events. Didn't do much other than the chapter events, like I didn't do many regionals or things like that. And then there was a time where I hit probably the preteen age where I felt like if I am going to be the same as everyone else, why do I need to be in this group that makes me feel that I'm different than other people? And I've heard that it's very common for little people to kind of shy away from LPA at certain points of their life. What honestly, why I share this is that what honestly brought me back to Little People of America was when I started my interest in dating, and when I wanted to start thinking about like a partner, growing up and having a partner, and dating and boyfriends and things like that. So about 15, about when I was 15, sorry, I lost my train. I got back into Little People of America through kind of reaching out to people that I knew online, people that I may have met through LPA, guys that I had met through LPA from when I was younger, or that my parents kind of knew, and really just started putting myself out there. Definitely went out of my comfort zone and just started to talk to guys online that were about my age, and start, try to start looking for relationships there within reason. There are definitely were some people I spoke to that I did not want to start relationships with, and that's common in average height and little people, I think. There's some people that I became friends with, and then there are people that I dated that I am no longer dating. So after a few relationships, then I ended up finding Bobby. So that's how LPA kind of got me into the dating aspect or the dating chapter of my life. And from here, since I've been with Bobby, we've gone to almost every regional in our district except for this one that we just missed this weekend. We've been very involved with our chapter. Last summer we had, I've been elected as chapter president. So I've been chapter president for the past 3 years, and this will be my last year as my last term because of term limit. So as chapter president, we helped with the national organization, when the National Little People of America organization came in during the summer and had our conference in St. Louis, and we were some of their local help as well in sharing with what we knew and what we thought would be good places to do or events to do while they were here, and setting up a few of the events during the national conference as well. So from here, because Bobby being district director recently, has also been a lot about teamwork between the two of us. So we've been kind of working with that together, making sure that the district and my chapter is run smoothly. So I'm thinking probably about taking a break this next run, and then jumping back in when I'm fresh in a couple of years. So LPA has really changed my life recently because I've been able to meet so many friends, and it's not just about people who you can see physically eye to eye to, but you also can, I guess metaphorically, see eye to eye with people and be able to say, has this ever happened to you? And have a big group of people say, yes, that's happened to us, and here's what we did, and be able to use, talk with other people about their experiences, so that in tough situations and good situations, and just to get other viewpoints sometimes. That's kind of about us and our Little People of America involvement. We have a few questions that have come in online that we will go ahead and read out and then start answering to the best of our abilities. And definitely, if you have another question that you didn't either submit or didn't think of till later, I think they can still go in online and we can respond through email if, or if it's something personal, or things like that. We're always open to speaking with new people if they have questions. So, you want to read the first question? Yeah.
So the first question is, how can I find love around where I live when mostly all of the men have little people fetishes, although they deny it? For example, I have been dating my boyfriend for 2 months now, and he just admitted that he had a fetish. I don't know if I should stick around or not. As far as I know, I have a few friends that I met through LPA that are little people that have average height, significant others. And we've talked about that same topic, and that was a concern that they had. I know a lot of it is kind of a risk you take out in the world. I know one in particular, which I won't name them. They dated for a while, and then after she was sure that he was in it to be serious, and it wasn't just a fetish, that they're really good couple. They are a really good couple. So they ended up getting married, and they're some of our closest friends. As far as that, I mean, it really just depends on what you're looking for. I know with a lot of the people with little people fetishes, a lot of them are well known within the community. There's, especially in the online community, usually once one gets discovered, their name gets passed around. But for those that are outside of the online community, and it's kind of hard to figure them out. So as far as your comments about sticking around or not, that's up to you. I can't tell you what to do, but I mean, if he's only in it because you're little, I mean, I personally wouldn't enjoy that. So that's up to you on how you feel in that relationship. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Bobby said. Neither him nor I have really dated anyone that was average height, and that's not necessarily that we weren't. I mean, I was open to anybody, to dating anyone. There just weren't many people, I guess, average height when I was growing up that were interested in dating me. So, so when I started, and then I started dating little people. But it does happen, and and not only is it a risk that you might just feel weird, but you also want to make sure that you are safe in your relationship as well. So, if it's something where you're not sure that if it's a fetish or not, I would definitely take it really easy and make sure that you're always meeting in public and always making sure that you're around other people, or maybe even trying in a group if you know of another couple or someone, or another couple of couples that want to kind of hang out all together, just until you can kind of I guess feel that person out and see if they are really in it for who you are and not just what you look like. Because I want everyone to be safe in their relationships and in dating. And I would hate for someone to have a really bad relationship or a really bad experience, and then feel like they are not worthy of finding true love, or finding their love, and finding someone that they want to have not only a long-term relationship, but maybe either get married or be together for a long time. So same thing that Bobby said. it's hard to tell someone without knowing the whole situation now whether or not to stick around. So I wish you the best and hope that, you know, if it was something that he had, that your boyfriend had months ago, I don't know if that means that he still has that fetish, or if he's kind of seen past that now, and that you're no longer a little person he's dating, but you are his significant other that he is dating. And I think that's the most important part, is finding someone that doesn't even see your height, just sees you as you, and your personality. So I know that sounds kind of cliche, but it really is true. And like we've seen with our friends, there are good guys out there that, and women, and average height women as well, that are open to dating and having relationships with anybody, and not just because what they look like. So good luck with that. I wish you the best. That kind of leads into the next question too, which I think we kind of talked about a little bit, but the next question is, how do you weed out people who are fetishizing you? I don't know. I think it's a lot about, like we said before, just really taking it easy and slowly in the beginning if you're not sure. I have heard of little people who use like online dating apps, and that they have found that there are people who will find them that have fetishes on those apps, and then there's people that they find that don't have fetishes and truly end up loving, you know, those people for who they are. So it's hard to weed people out. I mean, obviously they might not even tell you right away that they have a fetish, because if they tell you, you might really just, it takes a lot of talking, I think, and really kind of understanding, not only getting to know that person that you're dating, whether they be average height or little people, but also understanding like yourself, and knowing what you're comfortable with, and what you are okay with, and being able to stand up and say, you know what, I'm going to walk out of this, because this is not what I want. This is not what I signed up for. This is not the relationship that I want to be in. And if it's something that you don't feel respected, or you don't feel like you are loved for you, then definitely I would say, you know, weed those people out right away, you know, because over time, even I think everyone who has a fetish would slip up at some point. So it also, I think, depends a lot about how you are perceived in front of their friends or their family. And so just kind of, you know, and go with your gut instinct too. If something doesn't feel right, or if something's not going right, you know, and you're not sure exactly, but you have a bad gut feeling, you know, go with that as well. And yeah, because the number one thing is that everyone is safe while they're dating, whether it's two little people dating, whether it's a little person and an average height dating, and you know, that's the number one thing, is to be safe. So we will move on to the next question, and unless you had anything else. All right, so the next question is, do you feel that the dating scene has changed in the past few years as little people face less stigma? I think
it has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially with a lot of my close friends that I've met throughout the years. I know when I first started getting involved in LPA on the national size level, I know a lot of my friends would have very high difficulty, you know, dating like dating an average height person. And then even also dating other little people. Like if they ran, even just meeting another little person, it seems like before all the reality shows and the, big movie stars started becoming very popular, there was like this stigma even within the little people that they didn't want to be involved with other little people. And now I think there's a lot of self-awareness and self-confidence from it that they're able to, be comfortable branching out to other little people. And then with the average height people, they're, they start seeing that little people are also people themselves and start, connecting with themselves. So I would agree that it has changed for the positive.
What about when you were in the dating scene?
When I was in the dating scene, I didn't have that many issues. I mean, with the average height world, I will tell you and be honest that it was a lot less success than my average height friends had. They probably could have went up and and had asked the girl out on a date or started talking to a girl as if just to get to know them, and there wouldn't be that many problems. While for me, I would have a lot more rejection, but it still wasn't that bad. There was a lot of girls that even though they weren't interested in dating me, they'd still be my friend, and they weren't disrespectful about it. And then there was some that started off as friendships because they weren't comfortable with it. But then after they became my friends, we would date or ended up dating.
With average height people?
Yeah, with an average height.
Oh.
So, and then in the little people community, there were some that they didn't want to date another little person, and then later on, even though they didn't date me, they ended up dating and marrying another little person. So I guess at that time they weren't comfortable with it, but then it ended up growing on them. So I don't know. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah. It is a lot about self-confidence. When I was in high school growing up, when I wanted to start dating and had not yet branched out to talking to other little people, I did not feel attractive because no one in my high school wanted to date me. I was, different. I was a lot of people's friends. I was friends with almost everyone, but I was always just a friend, and I didn't feel like I was attractive. And I think it has a lot to do with where you are, too. I've heard some little people in smaller towns tend to, will date people that are average height, and then I've heard the opposite. That sometimes there's not anybody to date in smaller towns, and they, and in big towns, they can find people who are more open to seeing someone as a person and not just what they look like. So it's really changed, and I do see a lot of our friends that are now married to average height men. My girlfriends are dated or have dated or are married to average height men. They've met them through different. I have a friend who met her husband and in a club, and I have a friend who met her husband, I think, at school, like in college. So it just kind of depends. It's kind of, of where you are, because there's not always going to, I was never comfortable being out in the club. That's just my personal opinion, but just for the sake that I was worried about finding people who had fetishes or just thought it was funny or what, didn't see me as a person, just saw me as someone they could laugh at. But it worked out. I mean, it's not the same for everyone. It's going to be different with different people. But a lot of it is how you also present yourself. And so once I started talking, kind of getting to know little people guys online, and all of a sudden I felt better about myself. I mean, not that they were necessarily giving me the, telling me that giving me that self-confidence, but that I was taking a risk, and it was, and I was feeling better about myself because I could find people that I could talk to, and eventually, end up dating. So being confident was the biggest thing, was to be confident. Because especially if you're meeting someone, if you're talking online to a little person, or whoever, in a dating app, in anything like that, the worst thing that can happen is, one of the worst things that can happen, if they say no, or if they're not interested, then you probably don't have to see that person anymore, especially like when I was talking to LP guys in different states. Well, I may or may not ever see them again. So if I am confident and say, hey, I think you're cute, then it was, I didn't feel like I had anything to lose, because if they completely rejected me, even as a little person, not like it would affect my day-to-day life. I guess I want to touch on too the meeting, like talking to people online. That's a big thing, is being safe about when you meet someone online, and that was why my mom was very adamant, even though I was an adult and I was 18 years old and I thought I knew everything because I was an adult. The big thing with her was that you don't know who the person is on the other line, or on the other line of the phone. You don't know who the person is that you're chatting with online. You need to be safe about when you're actually physically meeting this person for the first time, and make sure that it's somewhere where, like when my mom was able to meet him too. So that way I was not in a place where I could have been in danger if Bobby had not been the person that he actually said he was. We all, I don't know if we all do, but I watch the show Catfish all the time, and I know that people can say that they're, one type of person and not be that be a completely different person when you actually meet them. So making sure that your family's aware and meeting them with your family as well is important. Important to remember as well. So I guess I kind of got off topic, but yeah, we both do feel that little people dating has changed. When there's a little less stigma now, and the dating scene has changed. If you go to nationals, you will see that there are a lot of couples that are made during nationals, because you get to see everybody at once, and everyone is your size, and you can actually meet someone right then and there, instead of having to talk online for a while before you get to save up to be able to meet them. Plus, I think it's, when we have our family, it's less, I feel like people now respect us as our couple, even though we are both little people, as opposed to, I was worried when I was little about marrying another little person, because I thought people would think that was funny. Like, oh, two little people, and then having, and so I think now it's kind of like whatever. And a lot of that comes with maturity as well in the person. And now I don't really care what people think about my husband being a little person. And when I meet new people, they don't always assume that he's little like me. So I think that's been nice to see, that people can, people are open to thinking that I might have married a little person or an average type person when they don't know, when they're just meeting me for the first time. So I'll move on to the next question, and we will talk about death. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
I could read it.
Okay. Okay.
So, next question is, I am currently dating a little person and am concerned about having children. I want kids, but don't want them to face the same challenges my significant other did. How can I bring this up without offending my significant other?
So I just answer?
Yeah, you could.
Okay. This, in relationships, a lot of in marriages, when you're talking about relationships and marriages and dating, kids always comes up, especially with little people, because it is a genetic mutation in the DNA gene. So this happens a lot. And I have people ask, not only in this sense where they ask about having children that don't face the same challenges, but also when people ask us, are you going to have kids? There's been people who say, why would you have children, knowing that you both could give this child, challenges. And I kind of, okay, so first I'll answer this question, and then I'll move on to some other things. For this question alone, I think definitely you want to bring it up. Honestly, you want to bring it up early on in the relationship. If that's where you see the relationship going, I would hate for it to be in a relationship where I thought that me and the other person had the same wants and desires, and then come to find out later on that we do not share the same view on children, or the same view. I think it'd be very similar to if this person said, I don't want kids, but my significant other does want kids. Is there a way to compromise? Is there a way to but being honest is the best thing to do, because the longer you're in the relationship, the closer you two are becoming, and the harder it would be if you came to a roadblock where such as having kids or things like that, and that it'd be much harder to hopefully not, but if there was a breakup or something, because you were closer. So in this aspect, though, what I think about is that even if this person is an average type person, which I'm assuming, and they are dating a little person, and the fact is that even if an average type person goes and has a child with another average type person, there is still a chance that they will have a little person. Yes, it's much, much, much smaller. It's between like 1 in 20,000 and 1 in 40,000. It's okay. I don't know the exact statistics, but to give you one that I do know, 80% of little people, including Bobby and myself, have average height parents, 2 average height parents. My dad is over 6 feet tall. Bobby's parents are also tall, and we ended up both being little. It's a spontaneous mutation in the gene most times, more times than not. So, having kids is always going to be a risk, no matter who you have kids with. 2 average height people can also carry a recessive gene for dwarfism that they don't know about and the other person doesn't know about, and they can have a dwarf that, even though it was not a spontaneous mutation, they were carriers of the gene and didn't know, and had a little person child as well. So it's kind of, it's really hard to, I would say, there's challenges every time someone has a child, and there's always that risk of having a child, not only with maybe a type of dwarfism, but any other disability, and to see it as an ability. I think what we see, my parents and Bobby's parents both raised us that you can do anything you put your mind to. And they would help us if they could. But for the most part, you know, they didn't baby us. They didn't let us get away with things just because we were little. Just, you know, that our siblings that were tall could not, you know, that were average height couldn't get away with. We were raised. I was raised the same as my average height little sister, who is now almost twice the size as me, and Bobby was raised the same as his average height brothers. And yes, there were challenges, especially medical challenges. I think that was probably the biggest, having to have surgeries. However, every little person is different with what they need medically. I know of little people who have had no surgeries at all. And I know of people like me who have had 17 surgeries in my lifetime. And they haven't even been the same surgeries that Bobby has had as well. So, you know, Bobby has hydrocephalus, I don't. So, you know, we could have a child that might have hydrocephalus or we might not. So, the biggest thing is that when a little person has a child, though, if it's a little person child, they can really relate to what the challenges are. And they can, not necessarily that my parents didn't help me out in all, you know, even those challenges if we are at school or in public, but it's just a different viewpoint. It's just, you know, it's something that my mom, you know, would ask me, you know, if I wanted to talk with other little people, adults, when I had questions sometimes about myself. You know, you get that firsthand experience when the parent is a little person and the child is a little person. And so I think, you know, I think it helps. I know of little people couples that have children. Some are average height, some are little, and then I know of mixed average height and little couples together, that one of each, that have little people children and average height children as well. I would never think, it's never easy, I think, to raise a kid all together, but having a child with dwarfism, especially now, I think is that there's so many resources. Thank you. Medical resources, online resources. There's a ton of parent groups that you can ask a question and you will have 50 answers within an hour sometimes. I mean, you know, there's a lot of, you know, everyone has, you know, everyone kind of helps each other out. So if you're worried about the challenges, I would definitely say, you know, there are going to be very similar challenges probably that your significant other had. If you're worried about just having a child with dwarfism, I mean, it does change things. You know, it's not going to be the same as having an average height child, but there are those chances, you know, in other relationships. With Bobby and I, when we have kids, if we have a biological child, we have a 25% chance of having an average height child. So I could flip this question and I could say, well, I want to have kids, but I don't know if I want to have an average. I'm not saying this. Let me preface this. I'm not saying this. I'm just playing the opposite side. But if I said I am worried about having an average height child because I don't know anything about being an average height child, you know, but you learn, and that's, I think, part of motherhood, part of fatherhood. It's just about kind of learning. Your kids are always going to be different. I work with kids every day. That's what my profession is, and I've seen so many different children of different abilities, of different, just beautiful children. And it's, I've been a nanny, I've been in childcare. It's hard taking care of kids anyway. So whether you're little or they're little or you're or anything. So I think if kids are wanted, there's always medical interventions that can be controversial. I won't lie. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to like purposely leave things out. There are medical procedures that they can, decide whether or not they give, they implant embryos with dwarfism or not into the mother. Those obviously have costs and things like that, and that's personal decisions. What works for you might not work for other people, or what some people are okay with may not be okay with other people. But that's what's great. I mean, is that we're all different. That we're all a little different, and like I always tell people, I never say normal size. I never say someone who's normal because we don't really know what normal is. So, so we can't say that I'm not the normal one and everyone else is different. And if you know me, I think you would be laughing right now. Or maybe Bobby's the normal one and everyone else is different, which is even crazier. But but yeah, if you want, I would start talking. Going back to the question because I know I got off topic. Going back to the question, if you want kids and you're an average height person and your significant other is a little person, start talking right away because you want to know. You may even start talking to genetic counselors beforehand and finding out about risks or what to look out for or whatnot, because you want to be upfront with the person that you're in a relationship with from the very beginning. You want to be able to say, and it's going to be a hard conversation. I won't lie. Like bringing it up without offending someone is going to be hard because you don't want it to sound like, I feel from this question that you really, either like or love or are really involved with your significant other who is a little person, but you're concerned in the future for children, and that makes sense. If we have a biological child who's a little person, I would be concerned as well. We have a 50% chance of having a child with dwarfism. I don't necessarily know what dwarfism this person has. If it's and that's also why you need to bring it up. If this person has a recessive type of dwarfism and you don't have that recessive gene, then you're not going to have a child with dwarfism because you would need both recessive genes. If this person has achondroplasia like Bobby and I, then that is a dominant gene, and so we have a 50% chance of having a little person, 25% chance of having an average height person, and 25% chance of giving both of our dominant genes to the child, which is a lethal form of dwarfism called homozygous achondroplasia or double dominant achondroplasia. And like I said, that's lethal, and that's a risk right there, is having a pregnancy that is not going to, unfortunately, is not going to survive after birth. So we all have a lot of these concerns. This is not this. You have a very similar concern to a lot of people, and I would say, thank you for bringing this up with us and for being courageous about talking about this, because it might be uncomfortable having to bring it up with your significant other. But knowing the percentages and knowing the possible challenges, and then just the positive outcomes that can happen as well of having a little person parent and a little person child, I think kind of weighs into that. So also, I wish you good luck with that, and that I hope that you and your significant other will be able to have that conversation in an open way where you both are, make sure you both are fed, because I know Bobby and I, we don't have very good conversations, or especially discussions that are big like this when we're hungry. we get very hangry, so make sure you're fed, and talk about that. And it might not be one conversation. It might be little bits at a time, whatever you're comfortable with in your relationship. So to take it as it comes, and just kind of, and then if you find out that you are not comfortable with the 50-50 or whatever that percentage is, chance of having a little person, then that's where you can make your decision. So that's what I have to say. What do you have to say?
I would just agree to be honest, upfront as soon as you decide that that's the stage of the relationship that you're in, and talk about it. I know Amy and I talk about children and have conversations a lot, and it changes a lot after we've had conversations about it. And and it might change again 10 more times in the next 2 years. So just be honest and open, and show your concerns, and talk them out.
And talking with the doctors too, I think, is important, because doctors can tell you, like I said, you may not, if it's a little person that has a recessive dwarfism, then you wouldn't, unless you have that gene, which in that case you would do the gene testing beforehand or whatnot. But I mean, that there may not even be that chance of having a little person. I have a friend who has a recessive type of dwarfism, and when her and her husband got pregnant, they knew she would not have a little person like her because he didn't have the gene. And if he did, I mean, she was hoping either way. So, you want to know all the facts before you make up your mind, and just, you don't want to walk out and say, no, no, I don't want to have kids with these challenges, without knowing all the facts. You really want to know, because it might be something that you can handle. Well, there's only one more question, but it's kind of open, so we might just kind of talk back and forth. I will ask it, and Bobby can answer it first this time. So the last question is, any other advice for a little person wanting to date, or dating, or someone dating a little person, or a littler person?
The only advice I can give from my experience with dating an average type person would be, or even just another little person, is to focus on the person themselves. Don't focus on the little person aspect. Because when you start focusing on the little person aspect, it doesn't really feel like dating. It kind of makes things weird. I don't know really how to explain that any better, but just don't assume that they can't do things. If they can't do something, they'll tell you.
Don't assume they need help all the time.
Yeah, don't assume that they need help all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't treat them like a child. If that goes in any relationship, never treat your significant other like a child. It sometimes happens, but it usually causes more problems than it solves. And
don't nag your significant other.
Yeah, don't nag. But that's in any relationship.
Yeah.
As far as what a person goes, make sure that whoever is the other person, make sure they're comfortable with the situation. If they're not interested, they're not interested, or if they find it weird, they're gonna find it weird no matter what you do. So.
I just had something. I know it's gonna come back to me. I remember. Yeah. Okay. This can go for men or women. I think. Just because you are a little person does not mean you have to date another little person who is interested in you. You have the right to be. You have that. That freedom to be able to still decide okay, this person is not really who I want to be with. I can't even remember if it was with me or with other people, but I know I've heard of other people in the past where when they start talking to, now this in particular, this was my friends who are girls, speaking to other little people, men. This is not a generalization. This is just in this instance, that they start just friendly talking to little people, to this little person man, to a little person man, and throughout the conversation or multiple conversations, they start out friendly, and then it gets to that either they're in a relationship that the other person doesn't know they're in, or that one person wants that relationship and the other person does not, and the person who wants the relationship gets not only offended, but also sometimes will say things, like along the aspects of, well, basically I'm a little person, so why wouldn't, you date me because you're a little person. Average type people can date whoever they want, and little people can date whoever they want. I talked to a bunch of guys when I was dating and in that dating scene, and I did not end up dating all of them. And I dated some of them, and it didn't work out. I mean, that's what's going to happen in all relationships. So just because you're little and they're little, it doesn't mean that you have to be together. In that same aspect, I grew up in a large kind of and I grew up around Dallas. Even if I was going to little people events all the time, if there were boys there or men there or guys, depending on my age, of course, it doesn't mean you have to always date someone that's close to you. If you want to, that is helpful. Obviously, you get to see them more often. But I never found someone who was close in my driving area that I wanted to date, and that's okay. Everyone has the right to be a little picky, or to be a lot picky. This is the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, that you want to have a family with, or even just someone you're dating while you're finding out who you want. Okay, that sounded bad. While you're finding out who you are, and you're dating, and that might be the person you are spending the rest of your life with. I told myself, okay, well, I'm not interested in anyone nearby, so I'll expand, and I just kept kind of expanding, and I kept my options open. In saying that I would talk, if someone was interested in me who was a little person in another state, then I would be open to getting to know them. I see this with, sometimes people will say that there's another little person in their town. I'm sorry, our dog is whining. He made me lose track of what I was saying. And so, sometimes their friends might want to set them up with the one other little person they know. Whether it's the same gender relationship, whether it's a different gender relationship, just because that person is there doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be with that person and have a family with that person. It's gonna be hard if you do a long distance relationship. It takes a lot of patience with the other person. It takes a lot of trust. Not being there and not being able to see that other person all the time. And long distance relationships, I guess, are not for everyone. There's sometimes people who don't want to do that, and that's fine as well. But they can also be, what I felt was that Bobby and I really got to know each other because we only had talking on the phone and talking online, as opposed to going on the dates and everything, or doing things like that. We And then when we got to see each other and have those visits, every other month or whatever, those meant so much more because we weren't taking our time for granted while we were visiting one another, and we went and did the fun touristy things of each other's town, or we spent the time, or we would meet up to go to an LPA regional, or anything like that. I always think that it's I guess, to stepping on another topic or moving to a different topic, it's other advice for dating. Whether you're little people or an average type person, make sure your family kind of know, when you know that it's someone that you're interested in, definitely you don't, I guess, want your family maybe necessarily making your choices for you, but that was something big. I had to find someone who also fit in with my family as well. And I can tell you that I dated people who my family did not like, and that did not work out well for anybody. So, it meant so much to me that Bobby was able to get along with my family. I got along with his family, and they loved me, and my family loved Bobby, and because family is important to me. I never, with as hard as it was to move away from my mom, and, I was living with my mom at the time, as hard as that was, I knew she supported me, and that was really big because then I felt confident in my decision. Was that, I'm an adult. I was at, I guess, what was I, 19 or 20 at that point when I moved?
About 20.
Yeah, I was about 20. And, and that was part of me growing up, was saying, okay, I'm spreading my wings. I'm making my own choices. And it was great that my mom was supportive of that. And my dad too, for the most part. So, making sure that your parents or your family or your aunts and uncles, that they are, that they also kind of support you. So, what else? I'm going to talk about it again, but be safe. That's my number one, is be safe. And, as much as you can, if you're going on a date or something, if this is a new date, make sure your friends know about it. Make sure, little people can kind of sometimes be viewed as more vulnerable, unfortunately, and you just never know what you're getting yourself into, especially if you don't know the person really well before. So, make safe decisions with how you're meeting new people, brand new people, who you're talking to online, how you meet people online. Catfish happens still, even with the show. So, so you don't want to be where you put yourself in danger. No relationship is worth being in danger for. So, feel respected. Find someone that respects you, whether you are a little person wanting to date a little person, or a little person dating an average height person, or an average height person dating a little person. Have mutual respect, and do a lot of talking about what you expect in the relationship. From the time that Bobby and I started dating, our relationship has changed a lot, I think. He says it changed when we got married. I don't know. He says I'm crazy now. But that's also, I think, what husbands say sometimes. But our relationship has changed because we've matured and we've changed as well. And sometimes it just means different talks. Like he said about kids, we talk about it, and we have changed our mind about how we will have children multiple times, and it still changes. And we start thinking about different things or different risks, or different positives, their negatives, their everything. So just be honest with the other person you're with, and respect one another, be safe. Just trying to recap, and find someone who suits you. Maybe that's someone who's the opposite of you. Opposites attract sometimes. Maybe that's someone who is similar to you. It's just whatever your preference is. And maybe you date someone that you realize is not the person you want to continue on dating or get married to or have a long-term relationship with. That's okay. When don't drag it on, but definitely talk to them about where you see it going, and if that means starting over, start over. It's okay to be single. That was one of the things that I had a problem with when I was first dating, was not being single for very long in between dating people, and that's okay, because that is when you are finding yourself, and when you know who you are, you can find a better mate for yourself, I think. I would say that a lot of this goes with whether you're in a relationship with whether your relationship like a same gender relationship or a different gender relationship, like any kind of relationship. I would say it's very there's going to be a lot of challenges while you're getting to know, because you are two different people having to figure each other out. So there's going to be bumps, and Bobby and I in no way have a perfect relationship. When I was first approached with this, I was kind of laughed at first when the person asked me if Bobby and I wanted to be doing this doc talk on relationship and marriages, and because I thought, really, us? Why us? Well, how are we the role models? And I realized it's not really about who your role models are. It's just about being honest and I'm sorry. It's just about being honest and and I can tell you, we have arguments and we have fights, and sometimes we go to bed angry and sometimes we wake up angry. Sometimes we just need a good meal, and then we're happy after that. But now I think I've kind of rambled on maybe for too long. Bobby, do you want to finish this out? Unless there's anything else that comes up. Any other questions?
If there's any other questions.
We don't have any more questions online, guys. Is there any final comments you'd like to make?
I want to thank everyone who has been listening or will be listening to the recording. And I would say they're welcome to let us know if they have any other questions in the future.
Right. If anyone's listening to the recording and has questions, feel free to go to growing.stronger.org/LPDocTalk, and there's a form there where you can fill out to ask a question. So you can just put in your form that you want to ask this question specifically of Amy and Bobby, and we'll forward that on to them.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate you giving generously of your time and sharing your advice and your expertise. I know it's going to be helpful to a lot of people. So on behalf of Growing Stronger and the LP Doc Talk program, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. And we are happy to help in any way.
Great. Thank you so much. With that, we will end this session, and thanks everybody for listening. And please visit us at www.growing stronger.org.